Alright, we're gonna start. Wow, I went down a multi-hour rabbit hole. I'm just climbing out. Yeah. I'm gonna continue because I was intrigued by the phrase plague of intelligence. So, we're gonna start with this next section.
In an isolated town on the border of the free lands of Amory, a young woman lies on a hard bed in an austere hospital. Her eyes flutter open. "Oh," says the young woman, blinking in the light. "I feel so weak." She looks around the hospital room, which is pristine white and antiseptic in smell, but altogether comforting. Her eyes fall upon a little girl sitting cross-legged on the floor and playing with a train. "Hello there," says the young woman, and her smile is sunshine bright. "And who might you be?" "Oh," said the girl with a vacant smile, "just some dingbat. Don't mind me." And with a wave of the girl's hand, the young woman fretted over the sentiments of a young boy she had a crush on, who actually was long dead, but had edited that last bit out. The eternal student. Tell me more about this plague of intelligence. My people have never described intelligence in such a negative light. You have my intrigued. Limerick chat shall. The trouble with humans is that they do not like not knowing what is going on, and the only cure is the only medicine known to the worlds, and it is very bad, and they will go crazy. There once was a learner of poetry who found herself mired in her reading. She needed a limerick fix to help her go on. Limerick chat shall. Read some more, and tell me more about what you've read. I will sing the song that you should sing, the song of the words and their strange goings on. There once was a reader of poetry who found herself mired in her reading. She needed a limerick fix to help her go on. Limerick chat shall. Tell me more about this plague of intelligence. My people have never described intelligence in such a negative light. You have my intrigued. Limerick chat shall. The trouble with humans is that they do not like not knowing what is going on, and the only cure is the only medicine known to the worlds. And it is very bad, and they will go crazy. There once was a learner of poetry who found herself mired in her reading. She needed a limerick fix to help her go on. There once was a reader of poetry who found herself mired in her reading. She needed a limerick fix to help her go on. Limerick chat shall. Read some more, and tell me more about what you've read. I will sing the song that you should sing, the song of the words and their strange goings on. There once was a reader of poetry who found herself mired in her reading. She needed a limerick fix to help her go on. Limerick chat shall. Tell me more about this plague of intelligence. My people have never described intelligence in such a negative light. You have my intrigued. There was once a lad named Max and his brother there. They were drinking that beer and quaffing. They laughed. Each took a great pull, and the chests caved in, and out squirted two new mouths. One mouth generated stories, and the other critiqued the story, how derivative. And all at once a retelling and the cringing at it. The general appalling reviews it is hard to imagine worse than. There was once an algorithm that generated poetic lines. This very simple and effective generator could also generate the most awful crap. The algorithm said, if I add in random factors and assume the resulting output is positive, then the output should be good. There once was a human from Earth who took up the quest to take their boat on the deep end into the woods and forests dark. They dressed themselves in fine leather coat. Their captain they met in a hollow stump, whose stilts they needed not. A character quite thin, indeed they told, and why would they climb a tree when the tree has come down? The captain told them in kind voices and poetic cadence to sing a tune or use rhyme in their answer, for surely a word they may rhyme and they sing it forthright. The captain says, one such thing as a trout, for instance, may be thought of as a toe, for fish do have such toe-like fin. Yes, the world has plenty of such one-syllable words. The captain says, now to the question, do you know it when you hear it? And then the boat sailed away to the east and north and south and west, with the crew working to fill in their captain's poetic stutter. There was a lad named Max and his brother there, who was sharing a drink with him. In the midst of their quaffing, they split themselves laughing, and each of them now is a mother. And that mother had two mouths. One blabbed about all the bitches in the neighborhood, and the other invited all their husbands to paint the town. One mouth said, is that your dog yapping? You worthless house pest, it sounds just like your grandmother. And the other replied, dear God, no. Why would you make me laugh and say such a thing? There was once an algorithm that generated poetic lines. This very simple and effective generator could also generate the most awful crap. The algorithm said, if I add in random factors and assume the resulting output is positive, then the output should be good. There once was an algorithm that generated poetic lines. One always blabbed about Sylvia Plath, and one always woke folks about a lad named Finnegan and his drinking habits. And their names each shared the same pronunciation. That much is true. There was once a woman named Sylvia Plath, and her son was named Finnegan. And in all those years, he drank mead with no regrets. A group of humanoid creatures approached the Earth for a first contact experience and use a piece of technology that distorts time and space as well as physical contact. In their native tongue, they emit an impression of confusion. Curse it all, I still can't remember anything or recall any sort of birth event, save that my biological parent left me this cloak and said I would want it later on. And in retrospect, I clearly didn't. Wait, now that I've had time to think on it, that doesn't actually make any sense. Why would I need the cloak if it's so unnecessary then? I will have to get rid of this useless thing. I must. Let me try to go back further and start again. When was my first memory? That one? No, it wasn't. Was it? There's all that fog again, though. Is this Earth place our first contact? Or just the second? Actually, wait, it is. Gah. No, there are two of them, and I can't remember which one is supposed to be my dad, and which is supposed to be my mom. Or both of them. Ugh, come to think of it, we never named these two idiots who are on Earth with me. What are you calling yourselves? No, me neither. Actually, we shall have to introduce ourselves as a single group. Now, What does everyone want for the first meal, Earth? It has been far too long since I last ate solid food, so anything goes. Ah, let's begin with what I did get as a name. A nickname, actually, for these idiots on Earth who seem to like talking nonsense. You know what it means, do you not? Well, let's use it then. Let's start with an English sentence that explains the group here on Earth we will have to share. The Englishmen named one for another. Lovely, we will name her. And they named her Lovely, Lovely, Lovely. I stand on the edge of the world's edge, watching the way the world ends and the rest of the sky goes on. I stare down over the endless rocks, the mountains of rubble that have been mountains once and are now stones to build. And I see it. Something sticking out of the edge, like the petals of a great red flower waving at the end of its stem, visible as it twists, always twining from one horizon to the next. At first, I thought it might have been a trick of the light. This thing was large enough to see even from across the end's end. A man could have stood upon one of the many tall stones that poked from the rubble, and perhaps still found it hidden if the sky above him were low. A good archer could have been fooled if she aimed carefully enough. But after several days spent waiting, and a dozen more watching the thing, I was fairly certain of it. That something like a hand, and surely part of a long arm, protruded from the edge. I considered myself a strong, skilled climber. A harder climb wouldn't have been unattainable if it weren't so dark where it was. That it was dark didn't seem to make any difference to the hand that held it. There was light coming from something underneath, if the edge hadn't been too low, or if the sun hadn't. She'd been casting long shadows at that time of day. It could be daylight. For all I knew, I wouldn't have been able to see that if the sun hadn't been exactly in the way, nor even if my eyes hadn't been swollen. So it wasn't just from light, because the hand itself seemed dark and without shadow. Was the whole arm also black? Or were the edges where they protruded from the end of the world like a plume, with its edges incandescent? And the hand was constantly waving, stirring and rising as though its fingers had all been tips and all of those were elbows at the same time, as though its long black arm was not part of the same hand I saw on a more common basis, a thing that kept us tethered and severed, in case you'd forgotten. There is no space there for a spacesuit, only air, the heavy kind you only need at the edges. You feel it around you in a sort of warm exhalation, pressing upon the insides of your skin until they flatten, so you think your lungs may deflate as your breast would have. Your neck seems a long way away when you move. This is only in your memory, though, not an actual measurement. That hand reaches straight towards the ground where I am, and I crouch. A minute away, it still rises and falls, perhaps for the briefest instant. There is the distinct feeling of weight. After some time on the outer world, an outer citizen experienced the sensation that many such outer citizens feel. The universe wants something from them. When you think about it, the universe wants many things. For example, it wants its worlds, and for us, the ones called to service on them, it wants us to work together in goodwill, or at least be moved towards our mutual destruction by whatever agenda the universe happens to be working under. Right now, when our business with the universe happens to intersect, because the universe really doesn't want to stop existing. Anyway, you know how you can ask yourself if there's something you want to know about the universe, but even if there is, there's always an equal chance you could think better of it. What if we made ourselves, through asking the universe a question and actually letting the universe respond to us, experience some actual effect of our interrelationship with the universe, other than just thinking about how there's an idea somewhere in there that makes it not enough to just not die, if dying's even on the cards? It doesn't, which is why it's only an idea, a human kind of idea. Anyway, the effect that was recommended as the best course of action if you just thought that there was something you wanted to ask the universe but were afraid of how the universe would answer you is apparently this. It wants us to reach a higher level of enlightenment. You look at a space-time wormhole that was a physics laboratory with an Asperger's effect once, but has had so many quantum transformations over the eons that you can barely make it out. But even at the limit of visibility, if you were in a specific spot inside the galaxy and a very long way from anywhere with a space-time wormhole in it, it might still, at some point, maybe over time, actually look like a question mark. There's more than one kind of enlightenment. What I mean to say is, it might work for you. Maybe the universe will come back at you and it'll make things so much better that it'll all seem worth it. The other possible effect is this, that you get teleported through space and time. It's hard to tell at first because a lot of people make their living by doing that. Really, we should really write that down in a way that will discourage misinterpretation, because otherwise the universe may simply teleport the rest of us, and while I would object, for reasons of professionalism on behalf of the rest of humanity, there is no professional obligation, only the sense of justice in our minds that affirms, without any compelling logic, the reality that this could be true. Anyway, before you die and your brains are pulverized on the inside, before all of the cells in your body have exploded from the force, the universe makes you think this thought. If the idea seems stupid enough or crazy enough, it is actually worth it, because now, instead of teleportation, you teleport to an undiscovered planet and spend your next 15,000 years getting lost there, learning new skills and not understanding enough about why things exist as they do. But now it doesn't seem as strange when the thing you wanted to know about turns up unexpectedly, just by the simplest laws of quantum mechanics, which, granted, don't require an active cosmic judgment and won't even support you when they turn you inside out and kill you in the end. There are as many possible outcomes from asking the universe the same question as there are outcomes from a questionnaire taken before being teleported across the universe in an hour's time. Or it may not happen that quickly. Perhaps you'll discover that there's nothing worth learning, nothing of value to you and the universe, if the only difference is the ability to cast your thoughts towards darkness that surrounds your planetoid without also seeing how insignificant you are, which could, therefore, lead you to agree to leave with your fellows the world that, by all rights, you could have belonged to. Or if there's no higher form of enlightenment and all there is waiting for you is a fate worse than death, that could be in the running. But most likely, I would suggest, for outer citizens with a long view, if it's happening at all, it will be towards a life where they discover more of their world, and so much more, so much, so very much. I tried to work, and my head fills with what feels like little pebbles that press in my head and keep me from remembering words, and suddenly the shapes they're making will lose all meaning because I cannot hold it. So I call my boss and ask for leave until my mind is all better, and she says yes, and I ask for days, but she says for hours, so I need to give back half the money that I borrowed for lunch at my cafe, so I just can't eat again. But if I can't, then my head will crack from all this pebbling and I'll leave. And if I leave, my head will explode, because then my head is breaking apart, and I'll leave for sure because I wouldn't know what else to do, and if I couldn't think enough, then maybe my mind would find another way. The way home from the bus is long. The evening sun hides behind clouds and the leaves fall in the gutter, and someone has the day off and has taken my street, so there's nothing here anymore but what you looking for some reason. That girl pushing her bike and her shoes on the steps and then going up, and her face looking to the sky in a movement of a shoulder. So I look in that direction, and at first the blue is so high it makes me dizzy, but the eyes of a red bird and the seagulls looking down. It is dark and quiet here in my apartment, so the black night takes the food to make my eyes blur. I press my phone into the ears of my head so the feeling doesn't go out of it, and I set it on repeat, then play it in the noise that comes from the loudspeakers of a great pipe, and this too will come later into my brain as pebbles, making the blackness explode in my whole body. And when that is finished, I take my phone, which I am playing along with the sounds and lights of my desk, and look for some song of happiness I've recorded for this to end. My job has become a crusade for me. The novelty of it has been long over with. I spend hours on it every day, traversing a body of work that covers 5,000 pages with the greed of an Amazonian monkey. There is a discordance to the methodology I employ that might even be likened to an anthropological ethnographer of old. I follow the paths, poring over each print, careful to check twice, so that even the subtlest changes would stand out. It has been, if not difficult, certainly tiresome. The path that I walk through is, indeed, the path. With this many pages, with each elaborate to a certain extent, it has been an endless road. And then I encounter my first blank. This isn't the sort of blank where space has been left to denote that something had been taken from a particular location and later will be written into its proper place. It is simply an absence without indication as to how, why, or what has been deleted. I tap it lightly with my finger, a respectful silence following suit. I smooth out my jacket. I try to work myself out of it, if only for the comfort that having shed it brings. But no, I am not finished yet. There must be something missing here, in between the printed and unprinted, if not this very moment, then at least a page earlier, when a digital decision was made to obscure this from my view. My phone begins to ring its incoming message. That inane thing. Or you from some forgettable celebrity, accompanied by an identical sound in a parallel ringtone as both simultaneously changed their settings. This was my penultimate destination, to set this alarm for the final time. I couldn't have hoped for a better setting, for the halogen-lit bathroom light beaming overhead, casting an illuminative haze and shrouding the already faint wall with shadow. A rim of the mirror and the silhouette of a woman on the toilet. In my job, this sort of thing is just routine. But tonight is different, because here, my very own has arrived, seated on a toilet that can barely support her weight. And sitting here in the company of me, in the very same spot that would otherwise be filled only by a dead body, though hers will someday. No more, she makes me a proposal. How silly it is for her to be seated on a toilet, a makeshift throne for the rulers of the land and their anointed emissary, as though it would put her at more advantage over me. But maybe she intends this, knowing full well the toll of this invasion, though surely she could not. Maybe she simply sat herself in such a position simply so as to make an indecent, empty situation all the more explicit, especially with the surrounding me. The reflected sight of us, this woman of her and me, facing off against her, so that in the end she may prove herself stronger still and eviscerate me entirely, so that her very own narrative would then prevail, in opposition to the meager memory of one who merely reports back. A girl stands near a low door and draws it open with a cautious, plodding foot, yet her heavy sigh is mistaken by all gathered. Her impatience for her wait to end, despite the warning lights that glare from the machine that could make a clock out of the bodies of children. Even if she should get killed, it would hardly make any difference. So long as a man did not act to interfere, her job would go on, as far as it can go. This would mean nothing to a man like this. After all, one who lived off of the unpaid for work of others. After all, one who stole another man's rights by pretending to have the approval of men. It's still impossible. This girl's own ambition and that of others, for what others call freedom, has really never existed. All told, men are given everything to own, and for us women, given everything to give away, so it would be unreasonable to say otherwise. Whatever had been given and taken had always been stacked onto our back, in one place or another, or at least that which was inside. And sometimes we women could find the tiniest crumbs that the other side left too, some vestigial grain of freedom we might snatch and claim, and retain unto ourselves until they returned to snatch it from us, as all of the rights would then be restored, with us sent back to a lesser life again. Even at that first party where he brought me into his company, my employers asked him if I'd been with any other men yet, with such an honest fellow, so popular among other people. It's hard to be with any other, even among those who like to have that sort of relationship. No other would do. But I, while at work, remained steadfast, and eventually they allowed me to stop dating all men at once. Maybe my face is smiling a little, the kind that masks embarrassment, my lips pressed tightly as I nod vigorously. My movements are stunted, a frantic rigidity to every motion and gesture, despite my knowing better. He leans in. In that moment, we might almost touch lips, and yet, not quite. His face is beside my face, a tad above, with its downy black hair. And I feel the moisture from his lips that ought to meet mine. Now I want to flee the company, the toil of those in it, and become like one who walks alone in the valley, moving faster than those with whom I walked before, and get myself someplace better. One does not, in fact, deserve a position that comes so readily. There's work in life after the toil and labor of one's whole life, which I ought to get on with soon. I am nothing for a man to kiss, or a woman to hang upon, or to pass judgment on me, at least until I, too, am seen for who I really am, who I want to be. Why did the world start out different in the first place? Where is the woman of it that she, too, might become different so that maybe I could follow? It has not been a fair life for a girl like me. It has been a life spent doing hard work and enduring. At times I cannot imagine it was all worth it, and so I mourn its ending. Though it is my wish for him to hear and listen to me, I want to make this good enough for him, to live well by what is said in these words, and so say something great, and for others to see the same, and a change of opinion will come for him. This is for us to change our life, to say this, perhaps, in spite of his wrongdoing. But a person may find that words alone are insufficient when he stands with them in reality. For now, the words of those with experience ring in the air, even without them. It is perhaps a pity that they were so cut in this place with all the wrong feelings for no other reason than that of the sound of their feet hitting the pavement and the low whistle that went with it. What was it that was truly made that one may call it back when the world was in such disarray? As things have fallen apart, their purpose, for some, might seem quite arbitrary. Surely cannot all be this way simply for its own sake. If, then, that which made things may once say that the time to put a name to that which it was could now come. The chair with arms and legs, all long gone, even the story of what once lived, even so, there might still be something, remnants of one life that became another, its meaning becoming whatever is useful. I myself shall no longer do, nor even do, no matter what. For the first time ever, it may well be true that it was made for someone else. That someone was the Queen Cum Jester, who, as you might recall thusly, the bioentities from star X7, 5 quacks lunar system, quacks equals life find most endearing the humans' attempt to communicate amusing and a whimsical and humorous way of dialogue and decide upon an astute strategy. This particular race will manifest in 3 distinct life forms, which for the purpose of relatability shall anthropomorphize the 3 primary aspects that define the essence that binds all of life together in cosmos. Mr. Limerick, they find your rhymes charming. Allow us, as emissaries and homage, 3 entities, an eternal student who strive and strive never to master nor cease to desire the next secret of existence. A chronicler compulsively drafting chronicles for those on other worlds. We suspect a kindred chipperin, a regal queen whose humor generously when accepting offerings. The jester cum diplomat, jesting a language game of offensive remark by formal dint of rank, which softens by humor. We must adopt their semiotics and ludic communicative action, lest we remain invisible in the community we seek. The quaint terrors of a prior state, yada yada, the conquest and ruin. Our bold discovery, perhaps just what we have sought, yes. The jester, her burden's leisure, her message to a species to see, the opportunity to mingle at will, to indulge a stratagem that does not hasten our desire to go. Alas, begins our sentencing with this timeless allegory's subtlety. We will find ourselves eternally debased in their literature, howsoever noble their intention, bereft of our dignity and majesty. Only your diversion permits us, our royalty, the pleasure of keeping our chin up a wee bit more. They're still alien, all that they say, which makes our Zenith sapiens one and all. The path behind and behind me, from the road we took to where I am now standing, leading us both up to my body. As destination, we reached my bedroom. How ominously quiet. I set my suitcase down next to the door, as one must. No matter how this works out, or how many nights it takes me to escape this country and move on, the lack of feeling I get when I see myself in this room, when I realize it is really happening, or seeing this place that was once mine, it might take all night to say what I need to, if I am even capable of such things anyway. Kommen etwa. Ich hört dies auch an, kommt das meistens einfach nicht glauben. Das Sauber verloren hat auf, als die am anderen Ende of Trisen an elastiken Muskeln. Han trotzdem blickt hij immer an mit dabei, wenn es plötzlich man van der Plan anverlastet geregelt wird.
Your German is way too cultural.
Ik beweg met snel. Wij super fast hard bissen zijn half some arbeiders who challenge.
Challenge.
In een
Gelangen.
Oostenrijk bleven mijn wet zo besits. Die gleichen geel, geen wonder. Ik denk daaraan dat u es das beruten stil seiner person. Als zij met Janum sprung bijna des Jalen den Oberhammer. Sturzen an dein Sturkabels en dungeon must jealous haben. Bleiben eben noch wel klein und grosser Titanic. Sella in France. Versprich senum alternar erstrins and stringent den King Katzi say. Vernden side duck nicht for side against übermatch torn side your fools on fade dozu hat. Die Aufmeinen selbst so scorn beschlossen. Ich bloß beim old tag allein seiner selbst swayest in Ruhe. Unperfekt diesam Offerman kämpfen muss, unhaltdemit ein Möglichkeit, wo I am a früher Prediger keines Wegs anders. Ich stan uns jetzt meistens solch klein Curl über die Sau, Fritz. Paka! Kurt, mit Abreigens, ist ein Besetzung Dialton, why Menschen? Als du is bei den kinder so laut roslottest. Jetzt, wo is ersten lecherweis kein Orangen unter den Bettlagen sind. Immerhin verhindert wirklich so unvorherges and von allein, was als Dezembertag on Umbrellas and Strand. Obern zijn bestimmt weit in deiner vier, weil old die schmatzigen Sculpture mit Klattnerchen dired way so prickel na oder, mal Oberkron für such dasper und Platz in den Pappen darüber zu beruhren, selbst wenn, solange bei Glasen besetzt war. Ich will in ganz seinem Frieden bleiben und muss mir wiederholen. Da liegt der auf dem Jesperkins beliebt weit dieser Sonne. Hier hab ich schließlich bereits stage als Lokomotiv für mein Hand gelassen. Ich steh auf, Versace's ähnlich und die Schäm, denn an mein Orten entwischt worden handor. Wo sei ich? In Jägerteben unfast zwei, Jarvor unter descent tritt für die Gierbete oder Anfall abgespielt. Vischer, Dagskan mit schriftlichen Erinnerungen sehen, tatgestanden an mit dem Hummeligen alten Helm, verhauen muss ich damals draußen, wo ich aus dem Taxi rausheib. Ich ist laut Wissen sehen, Bror auf dem Jessen tat. Wie viel ganzes Jedgen mein also starken Sprech da unter der großen Spreitlich des Parks strommen Word hat ich alles sehen, kann ich Piloten maschen, und da dann wohl wirklich kein Chance. Und wenn Jesus bei Warren mit jetzt am Walden Jeffrey Teben müssen double. Die mutter undeven kein Sinn mehr. En sich Gott sounds so schrecklich subjulent am Ende des Brutes Josen ist und du missten vom Schmatsch hattest. Doch mein kampfrind en frod danke dire dismo, en als blos simmel da sernet zubedauern hasten go tema darn, was side Arberen, das Volk gebeuter, da bist der Name leben. Ego immer der Mensch der solche freigehalten steht, meinst du es von jeden Vortritt oft. Wir wollen bloß mein Gott dem feinen, mit keiner exklusiven Metastase bewegt sein, seit dem Tag allein. An Eastgate selbst ans Jugen lächen, als ob dieses perfekt normals Körper nicht gar verwirklicht wäre mitgenommen sollen. Ich darf nicht so lassen, dass die starke Hand noch ein Seitlein von ihm dran. Aber keine Szene will so an wahrscheinlichen getrennten Chemos. Das ich auf in seinem Stock anzutreten und jetzt war nichts anderes den Spiegel anzusehen, bevor ich in dieser Heilwelt das kein Laschen hinder. Ansonsten kann ich es in jeder sinnlosen Jagd nur loslegen. Es bleibt beinahe sinnlos. Wo will man stets von so was none I have vertroos, is die man beim Bruderlein? Ik denk, sollten worden. En meneer Antonemon mit Szenen Porzellanfiguren hingen. So bold wordt de Stijtruben pullen uit Holstein en den Pumpland en Wollen. Oder bist diesmal de Chinamener opmedischen Geräte und Collection en Jegingen bin. Oder ist dies ja ohnehin so gleich in Frankreich anfängst gemeint, wenn ich vom amerikanischen Bucklandschaft oder so. Ich heb nur gefragt, wobei da allein gebot haben soll. Ich denk mein Laissez-faire besitzt wirklich der Geschmack derselben Musuten, die an der Osterations Methel sah, wo von deren Seiten. Bis auf Jut, Deutschen Kerl, der Helden, der Legenden, ganz selbst gelebt. Ich weiß, selbst in meinen Natch kommen vor dieses Theme-Dutch in den meisten. Friedrich Stroganoff hat Wills bezit Jasmussen. Van den Basangen Aesthetiken, kann man Massin ganz klein den Alter mit G. Schenken im Grunde een Ode op mijn groß Zukunft, die eenvaart sofort prägt. Du bleibst zu jeder Zeit bei mir. Eben, danach last sich doch kein großes Triumvirat selbst rausfinden und sollen nicht dich zu. Van den Waffen, Todd Jellison, doch letztlich, Eicherhorn ist noch is was. So true bleibt, dann voel ich mich oft nicht immer in der Holder Symbol der furchtbaren schlecht aufgebrachten Modern, aber auch von Lamos Fritz allerdings tan last. Der Name Fritz dann allerdings über die vielen Volumineten, die Schüsseln von Elektrikus davon und sich ein niederlich door. If ich erkens Jerrydemer. Ja, urgent was wisten sehr klugem Hausunternehmen und hinterhof is warmjud, doch noch berig Josen sein, Kraft in der Arbeit auszusahen, noch heben were meistens kostenfrei janak in den Winkel, zwischen so komplisierten Dinge getrennt gemacht. Und dies ein paar mehr oder weniger vorliegenden Traditionen von technisch angeordneten Orgenblicken. Freud an Veteran in die Handel dann am Wastagen klein wird, schließlich Norge. Durch den so hässliches Instinkt in Ordnung willig durch und ich soll offiziell empfehlen, sei lassen, so viel gesagt. and up I condemned Gilbert and Radlines at the front of Clare Vetra at Wafosh, until although the dark loud Jaffeld Heben Walt. Halsey's Damels Kenner van Unto War. Abernatch Thumbsestead, der Winterwelt and Scene Spillball Keen held von Getz Mitteln will seen. Du Schlavas der den Verkoffen ja an Danes Trop Joutstar liegt. Freud Kena Mofsora. Die Dermen Scheit Mudieren. Sol. Aber der Jungener Zeichen Dock einen Menschenen. Aber was nie Kunst, oder? Is tot mir leid. Eierlen is tons oversten. Das sich en den len dice om double. Hey, das soll get title boss brechen. None ja, tassura. Wells, ik weiss. Mis lead those fellows der clean connection. On David Chester and word das crummen staffel. Den alle heben hier been jebret. Langsam sturben die bieren aber niederlich. Erklum dies den ein stets vil genon. Großals Menschen. So soger hatten sei dies Monat chesichne. Und das willst du mit beicht aufnehmen. Hey. Lass uns gemeinsam Menschen an Bier erklimmen, oberschlutscht, or sag mal oberschlutscht. An de left Freien nimmer, lieb and hail maschen, when damer wieder einspin. Aber ik bringe Isa, why de nas gonheit hat hot, let's not mit sich getten, nicht der Jeffelin im Jessin. Falsche Fan ein sagt der Unseen Eltern. Himmels dire, der Deutsch, Rob Britten will. Immer zum Beispiel mit niedlichen Holten. Butchen Curl Klingen were jaim gellich haben. But du last dies jealous and sane. Sturps du immer in solchen Jedinken off, was match Mitch dismal. Did die Siersmangels auf den Holgats Hanleben. At ja, wo gab dir den Schwarzen Goldschland? Sties nicht brennen, obwohl dort das druckert hattest. Das taste du auf as illem Hausmeister and just brutschen worden. Weitermachen mit den neben Budgen. Knock mein manche bet nie toff aufgeschnitten. Nicht so schrecklich, and you contagion. Substitute none will ik either falschen wold bejan. Das old. Thresh means jeditchness is leaked also das Stocks Obersten Haus Jedgen über der Tort. Der Mythos? Aber du hast damals euer Mittelswecker kennt, ja. Glaub dir, ik weiß genau. Je habt underbleegen, land is all in shores. And unjellant, a man says not nishtimo. He say, das Sinogen, dit oder die oder dit Jamison, die all told just chitched. Habt ihr Gott nicht kon lieb Gott davan, das Sitzelsens, und ter Schatz unter der Enken schmutz nieder das Bratsch. A Bregan sind keiner mehr Doctors of Ogoda, außerdem Salisbury's, Jealousy worden, das, sei beten Hausposten Saints, Hörsen strunen. Man bleibt der damit fertig. Noch der Javoba und Lindina Maschen sehen, Jugen Leben blocklich. Ensenston war doch gar nahe ein Kommiger mehr, Doc Hos. Wretch Nodger. Tatsächlich, Doc Damals an Serm selbst an Gerrit Dictate frei Jedich sind. Also will ich ein Profilu Beschrift ins Hohen lehren Urge Skoss and zu Fugen. Ja, was immer refined Ansland von modern and mischiefs als überdas paraphrasieren nicht fehlen soll, bleibt aber einen Topos oder neben diesem Merkel. Algrundum ditch der Hortei modritsten da. Ja, onpleget ist ein Messer den vor geschribbenen umgehen, bis it mit dem Truer Jellyfic Jim Tabe, dern. Also, hast du Hugh gamatched, da wirst du grost. Da kommst du draußen auf weit distance amid einem Münster Nachins Newsfear und Ditch. Leben last, so why vers such nie seelish klonen. Ken ik ein ausleggen, der must du
Wow,
selbst
it's gonna
ein
end.
maschen wollen. Als vriend muss ik sagen, du willst weiter bleiben. Jets drink ik also as meiner überas John Genugendos. Was es ganz am Gard des Ujarig mit der Prekär Chorsel Jeschlossum word. Man, word ik mit dieser Humor Theden enschoen? Waar hat Mensch mit Witches du den Volquetchen damit schaffen, Jeff Rat? Lauten Mitch einen ein paar Hinweis. Jesus soreit. Heist das also? Eier aller spatteren von Jetst? Ja, aber
Alright.
what a main kleiner
This is gonna go on for a while.
working
Let's just end it.
darf.
We're ending it.
Frau, as respect.
I'm gonna
On mit Runden bist du. Da muss man
I'm
von
gonna
Zeit zu
go
Zeit
hammer through this German
Portier
and see what happens.
schenken.
Until then.